Warning: this audiobook contains sleep deprivation horror that will keep you awake. Characters you'll love watching fight, and some won't make it. A villain that cannot be killed, only survived. 12 episodes of pure, binge-worthy terror. A cliffhanger ending that will destroy you. The darkness is patient. The spirit is eternal. And you just need to survive until dawn.
Episode 1. The Panic Grows. The village square hummed with the rhythm of afternoon life. Merchants shouted over the din of bleating goats penned near the well, their voices blending with the sizzle of roasted maize and the thick smell of sweat-soaked dust. Heat shimmered off clay walls, bending the air into waves that made distant figures waver like ghosts. A little boy darted past a fruit stand, clutching a stolen mango in his small hands, his bare feet kicking up clouds of red earth. Laughter followed him, good-natured, unbothered. The fruit seller shook her head with a smile, knowing the boy's mother would bring payment later. Just another ordinary day in the village, where everyone knew everyone, and life moved at the pace of the seasons. Then, the light changed. Not the gradual crawl of storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Not the gentle dimming that came before rain. The sun died abruptly, as though some cosmic hand had drawn a heavy curtain across the sky with brutal finality. The bustling market froze. Merchants fell silent mid-shout, their mouths still open, words dying in their throats. A woman dropped her basket of yams, the vegetables rolling across the dirt, but no one moved to help her gather them. The goats stopped bleating. Even the flies seemed to pause their endless circling. Thunder crashed, a deep, bone-rattling boom that echoed from everywhere and nowhere at once. But there were no clouds. The sky was clear, or had been moments before. The air grew heavy, pressing against skin like wet wool, making each breath harder to draw. People's chests tightened, as if invisible hands were squeezing the oxygen from the atmosphere itself. Slowly, hesitantly, people tilted their heads upward. The sky wasn't black, not yet, but a strange bruised purple spread across it like a stain in water, veins of pale light writhing beneath the surface like something alive and trapped. The light pulsed with a rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat, and looking at it too long made eyes water and heads throb. The background noise of the market vanished completely, swallowed by an unnatural stillness that pressed against eardrums and made them ring with phantom sounds. No one bent to help the woman with her scattered yams. No one called out to ask what was happening. They simply stood, paralyzed by a fear they couldn't yet name. From the western hills, something began to approach. At first it looked like a smudge on the horizon, too large to be a bird, too fluid to be smoke. It spilled downward like oil poured from an unseen vessel, swallowing ridges and trees as it came, gliding toward the village with deliberate, terrible purpose. No one could tell if it was high in the air or crawling across the ground. Its edges writhed and shimmered, refusing to hold a single form, constantly shifting between solid and vapor. Then came the sounds. From within the approaching darkness, faint noises emerged, the wet sound of cloth being torn, slow and methodical. Something else beneath it, rhythmic, deliberate, something that sounded disturbingly like breathing, though what drew breath in that darkness no one wanted to imagine. It was impossible to tell whether the sounds were miles away or right beside your ear. Some people clapped hands over their ears, but the sounds didn't stop. If anything, they grew clearer, as if the act of trying to block them out only made them stronger. Whispers began to overlap, dozens of voices speaking at once in languages no one recognized. The crowd stirred, murmuring nervously among themselves. A horse whinnied sharp and panicked, jerking against its tether with such force that the post creaked. Thunder rolled again, then faded into a silence more oppressive than the sound itself. The horse snorted, eyes rolling white with terror, foam flecking its lips. At the far end of the market, old Abby stood frozen in place. Her milky eyes, clouded with cataracts, somehow locked onto the approaching shadow with terrible clarity, seeing something no one else could perceive. She had been blind for 10 years, but now she stared as if gifted with sight again, or cursed with it. Her lips moved, whispering words too soft for anyone nearby to hear. Then, with sudden violent purpose, she grabbed her carved staff, a gnarled piece of wood that had been her companion for longer than most villagers had been alive, and began striking it against the earth in a slow, deliberate rhythm. Thunk! 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 Those near her recoiled instinctively. They had seen her like this before, years ago, just before the great famine that had killed a third of the village. When Abby struck her staff and spoke in that voice, bad things followed, always. The air pulsed with energy that had no visible source. The hairs on everyone's arms stood on end. Static electricity crackled, snapping between metal surfaces, making people's teeth ache.
Subscribe to this channel or follow this page to get notifications for more captivating episodes of Whispers of the Bound, the Vengeful Spirit of Apocalypse series.